Hello, am I audible? Please can someone confirm? आवाज आ रही है? कोई confirm करेगा?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon. I welcome you all in the today's session. So, we'll start this session. Previously, we discussed about various processes and the art characteristics. Now, today, we'll see something about the modeling of the welding processes. We cannot go into deep of each type of modeling uh, because we have several type of welding processes, and each and every process have their own distinction in modeling. So we'll see very general method of doing modeling of the art processes. That is also again the vast area. We'll try to give the glimpse of the overall overview of the modeling process, how we can do the modeling. So, so you can see that. Let me set correctly. Okay. So, modeling of welding process. Okay. Now, before going to the modeling, let's look at some of the terminologies. We have some terminologies. If the if I am writing a bit smaller, you can tell me so that I will manage according to the visibility. We have the welding process. Let's say we have various welding processes. Let's say this is the view, this state, okay. And we are doing welding. So let's say this is the weld pool and this is the weld metal, and we are doing welding in this direction. Okay, so this is the welding source here. Here we have the torch. Let's say some torch or electrode is here. This is the arc, and we are moving the electrode in this direction with an velocity, let's say v. So this is the velocity of welding source. Okay, so we'll call this direction of the velocity of the welding source as the transverse rate. Okay, so this is what the transverse rate in the direction in which we are doing or we are moving the welding source, welding torch. Welding source may be welding torch, the electrode, okay, or the gas. If it is gaseous source, then it can be the gas. Okay. Now this arc, the function of the arc is that it is providing some heat input to the weld material, base material. Okay, so that is the heat input. Now I will define heat input. So heat input is something which is in ratio of the input power to the velocity or the transverse rate or velocity by which we are moving this. Okay, so can say that it's generally denoted by joules per m. The amount of heat input we are providing per unit distance we are traversing. Okay, so this is what the heat input is there. Then we'll have the rate of heat input. So we have something which is known as the rate of heat input. what is rate of heat input? Rate of heat input, it's something which is also known as heat intensity. Means how much input power we are providing per unit area. Okay, so it can be generally uh, watt per meter square or watt per mm square. Okay, so this is the SI unit. Okay, so if we have this top view, and this is the arc area. Let's say we have this arc. This is the workpiece. This is the electrode, and this is the arc. Okay, so the radius of the arc, if you say the radius of the arc is r naught. Okay, so the area will be pi r naught square. Okay, so since this is circular arc, we are assuming the shape of arc to be a circle. Okay, it may be elliptical or the oval shape, other shapes may be there, but for simplicity, if we assume the arc as the circle, then we can say it is pi r naught square. Okay, so over this area, how much heat we are giving, that rate of heat input is the heat intensity. Okay. So heat intensity varies in various processes. Let's say if we speak about process, like we have the shielded metal arc welding, shielded metal arc welding, and the flux core arc welding. If these type of the processes are there, then the heat intensity in watt per meter square, they have the lowest heat intensity. Okay, let's say in the range of 10 to the power 6 to 10 to the power 8. Okay, so this is the typical range. Okay, uh, of the because they have a larger arc area. Okay, so due to the larger amount of arc area, the intensity of the heat decreases because we are providing heat over a larger surface. But if we go to other process, uh, which are like say which uses the thinner electrodes, like the MIG welding or TIG welding, gas tungsten arc welding, and MIG welding, gas metal arc welding. Then they have a bit smaller electrode, so their also range can vary from 10 to the power 7 to 10 to the power 9, or the similar type of range. Okay, so they will have a slightly better uh, heat intensity because they will have the smaller electrode. Okay, so based on the type of electrodes, the thicker electrode will use, the heat intensity will decrease. The smaller electrode we use, the heat intensity will increase. Okay, so similarly, if we go to plasma arc welding, we are using a torch here or small plasma. Then it can vary from this range to even higher. Let's say 10 to power 10. Okay, so this is a bit higher side. And if you go to the 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 processes which have highly localized beams, like the laser beam or the electron beam, then they can go to even higher sides. Let's say 10 to power 12 watt per meter square approximately. Okay, so there is this variation also, but you can see the smaller or more concentrated the power source, the heat intensity or the rate of heat input, the speed at which we can provide the heat to the workpiece material will be higher because we are concentrating over a small area. So this is how we can see, we can understand the rates of heat input. Okay. Other things are like the fourth thing is the uh, distribution of the heat intensity. How this uh, heat intensity or input heat is distributed over the area. Okay, so let's say this is the circular thing. Okay, so it will have some coordinate here. Okay, so it may be distributed in the circular way. It can be distributed in the rectangular way. Okay, so there are different type of sources. It may be elliptical, it may be oval. Okay, so based on this, we can say that the distribution varies. Okay, so heat intensity distribution means the input heat Q, how it varies as a function of let's say this is x and this is y. Okay, and so how it varies as a function of x and y. Okay, so that is what we'll call the distribution of the heat intensity. Okay, now mm, we have various type of weldings. So we can see that physical aspects of welding. We have the fusion welding, and we have the solid state welding. So we'll not go into the modeling or the modeling process of the solid state welding. We'll try to have a look over the welding of the fusion. So the differences we already know. The major differences in between them, that the heat input. Let's say the input of heat, if you can remember, in fusion welding, it from some heat source. Okay, it may be the electrical arc or some arc from the burning gases or some laser source or the electron beam. Okay, so it is they are all the heat sources. But here in solid state welding, we don't have any heat source. We have the frictional heat generation. Okay, so this is this mechanical arrangement which uh, plasticizes the workpiece material, and it raises the temperature, which is not up to the melting point, but somewhere near around the the crystallization temperature or temperature up to which the material become plastic or it can flow over each other. Okay, so that is the main difference between these two. So the whatever process we are using to model these type of welding processes, we cannot use here. Okay, so they are separately studied. In this, we understand that the temperature reaches up to the melting point. Okay, due to the localized melting and solidification. Here we don't have the melting of the material, so we can say that the material reaches up to some plastic state. Okay, so due to the steering action is there. Due to this steering action, the material reaches some plastic state. Okay, so we are not hitting up to the melting point. Another thing is that the since the material reaches the melting point, it will be in the liquid state. Okay, so since the the material is in molten state, some flow is possible. Okay, so flow of molten material happens. Flow of molten material happens. Maybe the flow of molten material from the workpiece to the sideways to the electrode, or the melting of the electrode, transfer of the molten part of the electrodes to the weld pool. Okay, so these transfers happens, or the radiation from the molten material to the environment. All these things happen. Here we don't have this thing because the temperature is limited below the, the melting point. Okay, so temperature is limited below melting point. Okay. Now we can also see that due to the localized melting and solidification, and that is highly concentrated, highly localized. So what happens? The differential cooling and expansion happens. Okay, so there will be differential cooling and uh, contraction, and due to that there will be differential um, due to these differential cooling and expansion, there will be residual stresses. Differential thermal expansion and contraction. Here we don't have that highly localized thing, but also there is a little bit of thermal expansion and contraction happening. Okay, because due to we have the heat conduction. Okay, because we have heat conduction from the area of the welding into the workpiece surface towards the boundary, and also we have the flow of plasticized material over each other. Okay, so due to this material flow, uh, we have the heat conduction, which can cause the expansion and contraction. Okay, so due to this expansion and contraction, we have already studied that the generation of stresses will take place. Okay, so we'll have the residual stresses here, and with the residual stresses also, and due to the solidification, we'll have the structural changes. Again here, since the material flow is taking place, we'll have distortion and the residual of the stresses. Okay, so you can see uh, the main mechanism here and here is totally different. So if we want to weld for the fusion welding processes, we have to use different mechanism, and if we want to model the solid state welding, then the process and the base equations which we will be using are totally different. Okay, so we know here that an electric arc is produced. Okay, so some of the property of electric arc, that it is, we change the ink, is between the electrodes which are electrically conductive. If we are using the electric arc, okay, if we are using some gases or the laser beam process, then it is not required the workpiece to be electrically conductive. Okay, so here also there is a huge variation is there. In fusion welding also huge variation is there. Okay, so we are speaking about the electric arc. Another thing about the electric arc is there that it happens when we are applying some input power. Okay, so application of voltage and current is required for the electric arc. Okay, so we have the input, and there should be, since it is the ionization of the the some gases or the air. So we need to have some uh, small distance between the electrodes. So electrodes separated by small distance. Okay. So it happens in the presence of either air or any ionizable gas. Okay. So in the presence of okay, so this is the characteristic of electric arc. So if you are studying about laser welding modeling, then you have to go into the physics of laser plasma. If you are doing the modeling of electron beam process, then we have to look into the process of electron striking and bombardment, and due to that bombardment, how the heat is producing. Okay, so there are different things which we have to take place. So the electric arc generally happens due to, let's say, the heat flow. Okay, heat flow or heat transfer. It causes the heat to generate from the input energy, whatever input energy we are giving, that energy, that current and voltage converts into to the heat through the plasma channel, and that input heat, because that the temperature range is in the range of thousands, and when it strikes toward the workpiece in the narrow area, it suddenly transferred to the workpiece through various modes: conduction, convection, radiation. Okay, so mostly the conduction happens at that place. So we'll model through the conduction equation, and then it melts the workpiece and then do the work. Okay, so this heat flow, which we are speaking about the fusion process, uh, it happens by the energy transportation. Okay, so energy transportation happens generally by three modes, which we have studied earlier: conduction, convection, radiation. Okay, so these three modes are involved either when energy is given to the workpiece material or energy lost from the workpiece material through various modes. So we have to look all the possible ways through which the energy comes inside the domain and comes outside of the workpiece domain. Okay, so this also helps the energy transportation. We also have to look into the ways through which we can represent the heat source. So this is uh, the heat source which we were speaking about. This is the heat source, the arc. Okay, the arc through which uh, the energy is getting transported. This is the heat source. In the electrical process, the laser beam is the heat source. In the laser beam process, the electrons are the heat source. The bombardment of the electron is the heat source in the electron beam process. So we have to look at the ways through which we can say represent the heat source. Okay, so we have to see the representation of heat source. So what advantages we have? Once we represent the heat source through some mathematical way, after that we are not worried about the type of process we are using. Okay, whether it is the electrical arc process, or it is the gas welding process, or it is the TIG welding, MIG welding. Once we have modeled the heat source or represented the heat source in some mathematical way for that particular process, then uh, we are not worried about the mechanism through which the heat is producing. Okay, so we are not worried about the mechanism through which the heat is produced. We have the representation of heat source in some mathematical formulation. Then we will apply the heat source to the workpiece temperature and we'll see the temperature distribution in the work. Okay, so this is a main stage, and lot of empirical or say mathematical expressions are available to represent the heat source in the literature. People have worked a lot to represent the heat source. Once you are able to represent the heat source, then half of the work is done. Okay. Now, how we can represent the heat source? The heat source can be the point heat source, or whether we want to choose the line heat source, because the torch is moving in some linear fashion. So we can represent in some of the people represent in the line, or we want to represent it in some distributed way. What is the distribution of the heat source? These are some of the things which we will look about. The distribution can be spatial. Okay, so whether it is circular or rectangular or elliptical, oval shape, what are the shapes, how it is distributed in the space, xy space, that is what we'll see the spatial distribution. Again, there is this the volumetric distribution, how along the volume. So this is 2D representation. Okay, how in the volume uh, the the heat source is distributed, whether it is the Gaussian distribution or the cylindrical distribution. That is how the volumetric thing is there. Okay, so we have to look at the different ways how we can represent or we represent the heat source. Okay, so once we have represented the heat source in some mathematical form, distributed it spatially or volumetrically, then the type of welding process is now not affected. Then we have to just look at the mechanical properties of the workpiece material and the transportation of the energy through which the heat is flowing through the workpiece material, whether coming in and out, and then we can calculate the temperature profiles. Okay, so this is what we'll do in the energy transfer. Okay, now when the things are for the fusion welding, we also studied that the melting take place. Okay, in fusion welding. So so the material is in the molten state. Okay, molten material is there. So the material can flow. So we have to look also in the direction of fluid flow. Okay. So these are different domain. Okay, so one the energy transportation is different domain, fluid flow is different domain. Okay, so we have to also look into the fluid flow, how the fluid is flowing, how what is the behavior of the molten material based on the viscosity, based on the density. Okay, at the same time the mass transfer. There may be cases when the flux from the electrode is getting transferred to the weld or weld pool. Okay, so mass transfer is also taking place. Okay, so we have to take care of these things also. There are various uh, physical principles which we have to use. One of the way to represent this thing is by the Navier-Stokes equation. Okay, so which will take care about the fluid flow problems. Okay, and then we have something which we call uh, the interfacial phenomena. Interfacial phenomena means we have Melton pool and we have the ambient gases or ambient air. Then there will be interaction between the liquid of the molten pool and the surrounding gases. How this things interact with each other. That also we have to sometimes look. Also, we have the liquid state of the molten material, and then there is this solidification is happening and melting is happening. So this liquid state is coming in contact with the solid state. So we have to look for the this interaction also. Okay, how this interfacial phenomena is taking place, because this is the temperature, and then when we move with time, there will be some point that it is in the solid state, and then temperature increases and it reaches in the liquid state. Okay, so there will be this interface, the boundary. So we have to look for this boundary, and during this boundary we have to see how we can use the conditions to come up with a suitable model. Okay, so to start with, um, we have to define something which is known as the problem statement. So what is problem statement? Yes, this is where we start the initiation of the modeling process. In the problem statement, the first thing which we require, what will be the first thing which will require? You have studied uh, the subjects like FEM, FBM. Okay, so what is FEM? Can anyone tell me? We all know what is FEM, finite element method. Why do we need FEM? What is the purpose of using FEM or FBM? Anyone? Are you listening? Others are there. Okay, we have 4 people. Okay, so have you heard of the FEM? What is the purpose of using FEM? That you don't know, you don't want to just reply, because I'm speaking alone from last 5-6 lectures. Just please, can you just little bit interact with me, so it will be easier for me. Okay, Harshil, are you there? Jeel, Jeel also don't want to speak. Prashant,
Yes, sir.
so what is the purpose of using FEM?
Sir, it's basically a technique that we are using for analysis. Just like we want to do any structural analysis or any flow analysis, then we can do by using FEM. It will just convert all the structure into smaller parts and analyze it.
Structure into smaller part. Okay. Uh, so does it need anything for the analysis purpose? Like, we have
Yes, sir.
given
We
some
require some
geometry,
boundary conditions and inputs and outputs. We have to
boundary
define
condition,
everything.
boundary condition for what?
Just like, sir, if we are analyzing any kind of heat flow of a
Yes.
heat exchanger, then we'll be requiring what should be the boundary type, what should be the coefficient of various flows that we are already aware of, maybe.
No. Have you heard? Have you studied? Means obviously you might have studied differential equations. Okay. So for differential equations or some equation which in the differential form. Okay. Uh, what does the differential equation mean? Differential equation means the equation is mathematically formulated for a small domain. Okay, and when we integrate the differential equation with some boundary condition or initial condition, it will give the result for the uh, overall integral or the integral surface. Okay, so that is what, when you are saying about the boundary condition, we are applying the boundary condition over a domain, or say You cannot apply boundary condition without a differential equation. So first we need to have one differential equation, or to be more precise, we should have one governing equation. So our purpose is to model. Okay. So how we'll model? We'll model it using some physical laws, and those physical laws will be converted into some general governing equation. Okay, so here also for any specific problem, for any specific method, we need to develop, or we need to have the knowledge of the governing equation. What type of governing equation we should use, or we should use to get the answer. Okay, so here we can use the Fourier equation of conduction, okay, Navier-Stokes equation. So these type of governing equation, which are generally in the differential equation form, will apply, will solve it using some solver. Okay, you can use the some analytical ways, or some first principles, or using the advanced techniques like FEM. Okay, so over which we are applying FEM or AVM, we are applying these techniques over the governing equation. Okay, along with governing equation, like Prashant said, we need some initial and boundary condition. So along with this information, we'll need some more information so that we can solve. So for the solution purpose, first we need to have from the problem what is the governing equation. Whenever we are going to model any process, first we have to define the governing equation. What I have seen in most of the presentations from the BTech or master student, they don't define the governing equation. They just give random output of the models. Okay, so these are the simulations, the temperature increasing, decreasing. First, you always need to define that even your software, what governing equation your software is using. Okay, and along with the governing equation, what are our boundary conditions, and if it is a transient problem, then what is the initial condition. Okay, so after having these things, we can go for solution. But for the solution also, we need something. Okay, so these are some techniques which you have already studied in the last semester. So what these techniques have told us, that when we want to solve some governing equation with some boundary conditions or initial condition, first we should have the knowledge of domain. Okay, so knowledge of domain is required. Okay, now once we have the domain, we will discretize the domain into small parts, which are also known as grids or meshing. It is also called as discretization or meshing. The meshes are there, or the nodes are there. Okay, so let's speak about the domain. Uh, if we are doing some welding, let's say the butt joint is there. So this is, let's say, one material. Okay, and we want to model this process. So this is our weld joint, okay, and this is our butt joint. So we'll say that this is the actual material. Whatever the material we are using, this is the actual dimension of that material. Okay. So when we are doing the welding, this is the thing. But the temperature also rises for rest of the material. Okay. So let's say for a certain distance from this center, the temperature rises, and rest of the part, if it is a very large part, rest of the part will remain at the ambient condition or the room temperature condition. Okay, so we don't need the whole dimension to be the, the domain. Okay, so we have to consider some part, some fraction. Okay, if we are able to analyze this section, okay, let me magnify this section. If you look at this section, uh, the magnified view, you will again find a similar type of view. So let's say the heat source is moving in this direction. Okay, so this is a small domain. Okay, so this is our domain. We'll choose the small domain. Why we are choosing this small part as the domain? Why we have not taken the whole thing as the domain? Because as the dimension increases, the calculation time or the solution time increases. To save the time, and the memory, we are using some solver to save the memory of the solver and save the time. We choose the small domain, and when we have the result, we can generalize the result for the whole part. Okay, so the domain is required and the knowledge of the domain is required. Okay, so what we are doing, we are generally considering a cuboidal domain, which we'll see in detail afterwards, which is the very simplistic way to define uh, most of the problem. Okay, then we'll discretize the domain in the form of grids or nodes, and then something which we require is known as time steps. How many steps we are going to solve the problem? That is the time step. Okay, and then last, by which method we are going to solve. Okay, so through method to solve. Even in FEM also we have different solving approaches which we use for various problems. Okay, so which method suits our problem statement? Okay, so all these things combined will give us about the problem statement, give us the information about the problem statement. Okay, so when you see at the simpler joints like the butt joint, we can easily represent them using the domains which are in cuboidal domain, cuboidal shape. Okay, so let's say we have a cuboid, of this type of shape. Okay, so this is a straight line. Um, so this is say the shape. Let me represent the directions. Uh, okay, this is the z direction, this is the y direction, this is the x direction. Okay, and there are different views. We have the top side, of this thing. Mm, so let's say we are having the heat source at top of the surface. This is the heat source, and we have the welded structure or the weld bead here. Okay, so we can have the different type of planes here. Let's say the top views here, which is the xy plane, x and y plane. will get different information from the top view. If we go toward this view, which is represented by say the YZ plane or say this plane. Okay, so this is represented by YZ plane. Will Y and Z. Okay, so this plane is something which is known as the transverse plane. Okay, it will give us the transverse view. Then we have this plane, which is say uh, okay. So this is XZ plane. So this is X plane, and then we have this YZ plane. This YZ plane here like this. Okay, so our heat source is moving in this direction over the top view. So this plane is, let's say, the longitudinal way. Okay, so we have the different planes, and based on these different planes, we will get different information, which we will see. Okay, so once we have the planes and we want to analyze the plane, let's say I want to see the effect of welding on the uh, XZ plane. Okay, so I will take the XZ plane like this. Okay, and then this plane will be discretized into several locations. Okay, so we are interested in, say, if we are using some Fourier conduction equation and we want to get the temperature distribution on some specific locations, so we have to define those locations. So to define those locations, we have to discretize the plane. Okay, so to discretize the plane, we can create the meshes for the plane. So say this is our XZ plane, and we want some specific location for our analysis. And in welding, let's say currently we are doing thermal analysis, so we want some specific location for our thermal analysis. Okay, let's say this is one of the point, this is one of the point, this is one of the point. Likewise, we need some 10 to 15 points, let's say 15 points will require for thermal analysis. Okay, so these specific 15 points are known as nodes. Okay, and uh, this meshing is also known as the mesh points or grid points. Okay, so this will give us the information about the specific locations on which we'll get the answer. Okay, likewise, if we discretize the top view, we can give the position where our flux is there. Okay, so this discretization and the meshing will help us in giving the input of the boundary conditions, applying the boundary conditions, applied the input heat flux, applied where the heat loss is there, and apply different temperature conditions. Okay, which will give us after solution we can get the if it is the thermal analysis we'll get the temperature, if it is structural analysis we'll get the information about the deflection or the stresses. Okay, so we'll get various type of information over these points. Okay, so more thinner the or the more smaller the grid size, uh, the, the 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 time for solution will be large. Okay, uh, so let's say let's speak about the time space, time steps. We need the welding for, let's say, t equals to 0. We are starting the welding at t equals to 0, and welding is going for t equals to 100 seconds. Okay, and we want to solve the governing equation for the applied boundary condition for every time step. So we need to define time step also. So as you might have studied during FEM, so we need to define the time step that solver can use these time steps to solve the equation. Let's say we will define So this is my time step. Okay, so the total time steps will have equals to 1000. So we have 1000 time steps now. Okay, so these time steps, the more the time steps, the larger the time steps, you will get the precise solution. However, it will take long time. Okay, so the scale of the problem is something which will define how much your solver is going to take or consume the time. Okay, so larger the scale of the problem, the more your solver is going to take the time to solve the problem. Okay, so it is generally uh, explained as something, the number of grid points multiplied by the number of time steps. Okay, so if you decrease the time step, okay, if you decrease it to 1 microsecond, or let's say 0.01, your number of time steps will increase, which will ultimately increase the scale of the problem, and the problem will consume more amount of time. In similar way, if your the grid size are small and you are doing more grid points, you are defining more nodes, then grid points will increase, and as this grid point will increase, so your time steps will increase. Okay, so we have to find which is known as the convergence, up to which, what are the points through which our solution can converge without giving errors. Okay, so we have to find those values of the time step and those values of the grid. So we can refine the mesh and we define the time step, so that up to a smallest point we'll get the largest point up to which we'll get our results satisfactory. Okay, so these are different things. uh, we discussed about different views here. We discussed about different views. We have the top view, longitudinal view, and transverse plane. If you see this problem, this particular thing which we have seen, and if this is the heat source moving in this direction, this is our heat source, and we take different planes at, at a time. Okay, so let's say if you are taking, sorry, you are taking the top view of top plane. Okay, so top plane, which is say the XY plane. So what information we are going to get from this? So we'll get the information about the solidified weld pool, okay, the thermal profiles here, and thermal profile of this thing, and in which direction it is going. So let's say welding is taking in this place. So this is our the source, heat source moving, and it will also shows the area through which we are getting the molten material. Okay, so through this plane we'll get this type of information. uh, we speak about the transverse plane. You speak about the transverse view, then will be here. Okay, and if you see through it, you will get information. Let's say we have sectioned the plane here. Okay, we have taken any plane in the transverse uh, plane here. Okay, so if you view it, you will get information which is something like this. Okay, so this is say our weld or molten material based on the location. If we are taking the location at the heat source, we will get the molten pool. If we are taking taking the section behind the heat source, you will get the solidified weld. If you are taking section before the heat source, you will get the normal view. You won't get any information. Okay, so this is what you will get in when you are using the transverse plane Z, and if you are using the longitudinal plane, then the information which you will get will be something like this. So this is the solidified weld, and this is what our weld pool or molten pool is there. Okay, so based on the planes, which plane you are considering, you will get different type of information. Okay, so what type of information we are actually interested in the thermal modeling of the uh, fusion welding. So we are interested in the thermal profile. Let me check the time. Okay, so time is almost over. So we are looking for the thermal profile and the thermal history. Okay, so thermal profile, what is the thermal profile? How to get the thermal profile, and what is thermal history? What is difference between the thermal profile and thermal history? What are the ways through which we can get the information about the thermal profile and thermal history during the modeling process and in actual scenario, that we'll discuss in the next lecture. Okay, so we'll stop here for this part. Few of the classes in the coming weeks will be taken by Dr. Navneet Khanna. I will be leave for that period of time. So from next part, say 19th of this month, Dr. Khanna will take the part, and after he finishes his part, I will resume back my lectures. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask me now. If you have any doubt in today's class, it's fine. You want to ask anything? Okay, then thank you for joining. We'll meet in the next class. So once again, goodbye.